O captain, my captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack, and the prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But O heart, O bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, falling cold and dead. Walt Whitman, baby. Check this out. We're jumping into an entirely new thing in social studies. Guess what? And this is going to get really exciting because this is one of my favorite things to discuss in social studies and in literature. We're going to be exploring some of the very first American authors, poets, and idealists. And it's going to be a lovely, lovely time. Welcome to Caffeinated History. It is Mr. Pedigo, as always. St. Michael Catholic School. It's about 7:13 in the morning. We're getting business done here, okay? Check this out. We've been going rapid fire through history. We're like sprinters. We're sprinting through American history. It's great. We've been discussing the Age of Jackson, okay? Dark times, okay, people? You know, the Indian Removal Act. I feel like all my videos, I just open up Indian Removal Act. But it's a significant thing. Indian Removal Act opens up opportunity for growth in the United States. We'd also talked about some of the things happening in the South right now. We talked about the cotton gin, how it kind of it creates a resurgence in slavery. We talked about some of these slave uprising. We talked about Nat Turner, right? We've also talked a little bit about stuff happening out west. We talked about the Lone Star State, Texas, how it kind of fights for its independence from Mexico and becomes a republic for 10 years and then joins the United States of America in 1836, I do believe. So what we're going to do to follow up on this, I'm going to give you guys a real quick picture of what's going on in America right now, okay? Because right now we're going to see some rapid growth, okay? Or some rapid growth in America. Check this out. Immigration. We all know what immigration is. We're going to start seeing a lot of immigrants coming from overseas in Europe to the Americas in search of opportunities, search of economic opportunities, new beginnings, etc., etc. One of the driving forces behind this is a big group of people who come from Ireland, okay? There's an Irish immigration movement into America. And this is partly because of something going on in Ireland around the same time as, Texas declaring its independence from Mexico, around the same time that Nat Turner is fighting making this insurrection, fighting against these southern slave owners. And this is the Irish potato famine. Check it out, 1840. So we're about 10 years off from, if we're looking at a timeline, we're about 10 years down the road from the Indian Removal Act. And there's a potato famine in Ireland. You guys know what potatoes are? You should, because if you don't, then, we step back real far. But there's a blight. There's a shortage. There's a famine of potatoes. The Irish people relied heavily on potatoes, as much like the Native Americans relied on corn, and we relied on corn during the early days of our nation. And imagine if all that was suddenly struck with some sort of blight. Now, a blight, it's a disease with plants, right? And it causes them to basically just stop growing. So what do these people do? Well, they come over to America. They don't have a whole lot of options. And we start seeing immigrants come. They're looking for work. And guess what? America's a good place to work right now because there's stuff happening. We got stuff happening, people. Potato famine. Immigrants from Ireland and Europe coming into the United States. Now, a lot of times, there's always some sort of schism between people. You have, on one side, that's great. You're getting people, America's built on various cultures, people coming from different walks of life, different backgrounds. You think of the Pilgrims, you think of all the people who came and founded this country, and that's a beautiful thing. But unfortunately, not everybody thinks so, because there's a party called the Know Nothing Party, which it seemed like they didn't know a whole lot. They didn't know a whole lot about equality and equal opportunity. But that's not why they named themselves that. The Know Nothing Party is a group. They actually are kind of anti-immigration. Okay, and so this is around the time, around 1840-ish, right? And they're like, okay, we don't want people coming taking take our jobs, man. And they're totally against it. The Know Nothing Party. I'm gonna read you a little excerpt. Okay, this is happening in 1849. Okay. The Know Nothing Party is founded, and it supported measures making it difficult for foreigners to become citizens, immigrants to become citizens, or to hold office. And this is interesting to us in a Catholic environment because this Know Nothing Party was also really invested in keeping Catholics and immigrants out of office. So, not very fun, man. Not a good group of people. The Know Nothing Party is under a larger umbrella term, which is like, I guess you could call it like a nativist. Okay? Now, if you're native to somewhere, that means that you're from there originally. And so this nativist group of people, they're people who, have lived in America maybe for multiple generations, and they kind of identify as Americans, and they're native to the area, and they want to keep people who are not native out, aka the Irish Catholics. The Irish Catholics, they want to keep the Irish Catholics out at any cost. Not very fun. So there's a little bit of a schism going on there again. We get schisms all over America, dude. Gosh, we got to figure our stuff out, man. Come on. Gee whiz. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of urban development at the same time. With this immigration thing, potato famine, boom, immigrants. We're seeing a lot of urban growth. At the same time, you're seeing a schism between nativists and immigrants, okay? And that's something that we're going to continue to see, and man, crazy. All right. At the same time, however, America's kind of getting into, we're kind of getting late into the history here. We're moving along. And at the same time, when you get to a place in history where things are kind of like you're established as a country, it's like, imagine this. If you think of like hunter-gatherer types, people who are just totally working on, surviving, getting food to eat, finding places to live, staying out of the elements, you're not going to have a whole lot of time for what? The arts. But then the second that you finally do kind of have some stability, and that's sort of a crazy analogy or example there. I'm not saying that we're hunter-gatherers here in America, but they finally have gotten to a place where they're established enough economically and established enough with their industry and with their culture that you start seeing art emerge. And that's really sort of for artwork to come out of a culture, it's sort of a luxury. It's sort of the cherry on top, right? Because that's not something that necessary, right? But it starts happening. And we're going to talk about two groups, okay? So I don't want to put too much in this video, but we're going to be talking about two groups of authors. Two groups of authors. We're going to be talking about the Transcendentalist authors. Man, I love me some Transcendentalist authors. Talk about your boy, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Talk about your boy, Henry David Thoreau. I went into the woods because I wanted to live deliberately and put to rout all that was not life, and when I came to die, I discovered that I had not lived. Or something to that effect. That's your boy, Thoreau. Transcendentalism. Mental note. This is a belief that humans, they have the ability to rise above the material things in life, to make something that rises above the things that are going to be gone, right? To make works of art, to make poetry, to make a lifestyle that rises above the material. And this is tied into another idea, which is kind of the idea of a utopian society or community. We're going to be talking about that more in class 2. Utopia is like a perfect society. And these transcendentalists, aside from their interest in art and poetry, they were also interested in establishing a perfect society because they thought that human beings could rise above the temporal, the material. Okay, the other group we're going to be talking about. This is a group, this ties back. That's why I opened up with your boy Walt Whitman at the beginning of this video, okay? So Walt Whitman, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and Emily Dickinson are all part of a group of authors that we call American Romantics, okay? Romanticism. Even you could say, I think you could even throw Hawthorne in there too. Nathaniel Hawthorne, Scarlet Letter, etc., etc. What we're going to be getting into is an in-depth look at some of these authors. This is American culture, people. This is just purely American. This is beautiful. This is the soul and the life force of America in this time in history, man. It's very important to get it. And if we're talking about social studies, remember, our focus is societies. And we're taking a really cool look at our societies. And it's like if you ever watched the film The Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams, he says in that movie, I live for love and for passion. And he's really fired up about these same authors. So we'll be taking a look at them. But long story short, in order to get to this period where we're seeing art emerge, we're seeing people like Wadsworth, Longfellow, and we're seeing people like Walt Whitman. In order to get there, we could not have gotten there without immigration booming with the potato famine. What's up, Gunner? Good to see you. We couldn't have gotten there without the cotton gin. Unfortunately, all of these things are very closely tied in. There's a timeline. It's important to understand how these things come about. Gunner? Signing off. 7th and 8th grade. Have a great day.
Peace.
Peace.